This is the Nassaman Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella.
All right, welcome back to the Nassaman Hockey Podcast, episode 71. James Nichols and John Zella here as always. What's going on, buddy?
Not a whole lot. Excited to get behind the mic again. I wish we had more to talk about, but I think it'll be good either way.
Yeah, I mean, guys, listen, we're waiting, sitting on our hands just as much as you are. But let's get right to On the Island, brought to you by DraftKings. And everyone's favorite time of year is right around the corner. College football season. To celebrate, DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is putting new players in the center of the action with $200 in free bets instantly if you bet $1 or more on any college football game. Take advantage of this limited time offer now. You heard that right. DraftKings is giving all new players $200 in free bets instantly when you place a bet on $1 or more on any college football game, no matter what. Head to the DraftKings Sportsbook app now to check out all the great promotions and daily odds boosts that they are offering. Don't forget, DraftKings free-to-play pools are easy to enter. Just download the DraftKings app, go to pools, and choose from a wide variety of free contests for an opportunity to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code THPN to receive $200 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any college football game. That's promo code THPN to get free $200 in free bets instantly. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indianapolis, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. /sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. All right, let's talk about the only Islander news. Oh, I shouldn't say only. One of the very few Islander news that happened this week, and that is that Adam Pellick avoids arbitration and extends with the New York Islanders for 8 years at $5.75 million per year. He's got a no movement clause through 2025 and then a minimal no movement clause until 2029. John, what is your reaction to this, in my opinion, perfect contract?
I love it, and not because I said it last week that this would be maybe what they were aiming for, which would be just around the same amount that I believe Pulock, which we'll talk about in a second, would also get to keep that pairing at in and around $12 million.
Yeah.
I love that he's here long term. He really showed his commitment in the press. I believe it was the next day. On that would have been last Friday. He made it really clear that his commitment to the team and the direction they were going, and that he wanted to be here. So on top of a team friendly deal on who's considered to be one of the top best shutdown defensemen in the league.
Yeah.
And you seeing some of the other deals that went out or that last week or around the same time, Seth Jones and a couple other Darnell Nurse. Ooh, those are rich. And they may put up more points than Pelech, but we've seen a lot of offensive upside with the puck from Pelech.
He's getting better.
I mean, you saw him last year, like just wrangling the puck out of trouble alone shows me he's capable of that. He has gone, and Mayfield's done this too, but Pelech in particular has gone on some rushes and and made some good plays. So I think the offensive upside, who knows what that is, but as part of that shutdown pair, that's phenomenal for the team.
In my mind, Adam Pellick is the number one defenseman in the New York Islanders. I know there's a debate, that it could be Pulock, but, a number one defenseman is supposed to put up more points, and neither of them really put up number one defenseman points. But
Pulock would pull away if he hit the net.
Yeah.
If he scored goals, you would say we'd be making that point.
I think, and I agree. However, it's no secret that Adam Pellick is, if not the best defensive defenseman in the league, he's up there. He's at least top three. He's finally getting, and I don't know how much we should be. I don't know if we should be happy about this, but he's getting national recognition. He was placed on the mock Team Canada roster for the Beijing Olympics. So
on some rosters.
On some rosters, correct. So the thing is, it's possible that he's the number one defenseman for the New York Islanders. I love it. I really do. This is and
I don't mind the attention either. I mean, he's signed. If he wasn't signed, but he wants to be there. And I think there's a lot of these guys. They've committed themselves long term. Pulock and Barzell, notwithstanding, because they really do deserve to get paid. And now that they know the outlook and contracts are moved, everybody internally knows what the deal is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's fine.
Right. And so the thing in my mind is he's the Islanders' number one defenseman. Now, I've heard some people say this is not only a great contract now, it's going to be a great contract over the entire contract, right? 100%. They get him at 5.75 right now. And like we said, he's not a point monster, but you can see his game is getting better. So at the deal that he's at now, it's already a bargain, but he's going into his age 27 season. He's only going to go up, or he can possibly still go up from here. Let's say over the 8 seasons, he stays exactly where he is. It's still a bargain, but he can still get better.
Yeah, and so he's under 35 by the time it ends. And I think, and that's good, because if he wants to stick around on the island, there's room for him as a third pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
Maybe they've won a cup by then. Maybe we do one of those retroactive deals. If Lamoriello's, chances are in 8 years, Lamoriello will not be the GM of this team. I hope he is for the foreseeable future, but I don't necessarily want to speculate who might be next. I know we've kind of tried to discuss it before with really to no avail. I don't think we came up with any conclusion other than maybe Chris Lamoriello shoulder shrug emoji guy. But yeah, I mean, I think the fact that he can be had maybe for a little bit cheaper than that after, like I said, maybe a retroactive deal, I think it's good. I think the entire team's contracts will look pretty good. Barzell might hurt at first, but it will be better eventually.
Mm-hmm.
As far as percentage of the cap, granted, it's going up next season, as we've heard. Even if it's $1.5 million, chances are it'll keep going up. So this will actually get better over the course of the contract, like any deal in any other circumstances that's not the pandemic.
Yep.
As like I said, a percentage of the overall cap for the Islanders.
And like you said earlier, you see what the guys on other teams are getting, like Dougie Hamilton, Seth Jones, Zach Werenski, all upwards of $9.5 million. Again, Pelech is the Islanders' number one defenseman. He can still get better from here, and he's going to be making 5.75 for the next 8 years. And that begs the question now: what will that mean for Pulock's contract? If Adam Pelech is your number one defenseman, and that's the message you're trying to send, this sets the precedent. You're not going to make more than Adam Pelech. We'll match it, maybe. You're the top. I think
it's around the same. It might be 6.25.
Well, now here's the thing, right?
Or something, you know what I mean? 6.
So maybe the only reason why he gets a couple extra dollars more is because the cap is set to go up another $1 million next season. So maybe that contributes.
He's proven to be a 35-point guy. Or that shortened season, not this past shortened season, the one before that, the one that was cut short, he was on pace for over 40. Like it was possible in the last 25 games, he had 5 points. Like that was reasonable. So, it's also possible, just like the goaltenders, that it's 1A, 1B. Right, they're both the best at different things. Pulock has shown to be, a shutdown guy. He does play tough minutes, but he's an offensive player. Pellick is not out there on the power play.
No, you're right.
So they're both the best at their, just like every other role on the team. They're both the best, and because he does put up points, granted he can do that over this upcoming season and get back to form. He showed a little bit of it in the playoffs. If you can get back to that, I think it's under 6.5. but I think but you know what I mean? I think it's in and around. If it's within, I would imagine it's within $500,000 of each other. And I'll say this too, and a little bit of kind of going back to the Pellick thing, but between the two of them and really the rest of the team, I wonder if some of the conversation within the team, the coaching staff, the management, really, the whole franchise, I wonder if they looked at a team like the Bruins and said, look at what these guys, or even the Penguins by and large, looking at these teams that have had.
You took it right out of my brain.
Seen their recent success.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, look at what they got paid. They got paid, right? For long parts of their career. Not maybe what they would have gotten on the open market, but they won.
Exactly.
And maybe that's part of that conversation. And the Islanders are kind of going in that direction. Everybody seems to be making between $5 and $7 million.
Outside of Boston, David Pastrnak could make $8-9 million. Easy. Maybe more. I think that's completely accurate. I think that there was a conversation. I need you to help me set a precedent here. Do you want to win? This is obviously Lou asking the question. And Pellick, yeah, he wants to win. You're going to have to take a haircut on what you could have made on the open market. We'll make up for it with term. You want to make this money for long term? We'll sign you for 8 years. But you're going to make 5.75 for the next 8 years. You're making over $40 million. I think they'll be okay at the end of their career. The bottom line is, I think you're right. There had to have been a conversation where, listen,
I think it's with the entire team. I don't think it's just with Pelech.
No,
I don't think it's just
right.
in negotiations. I think it's
because
beforehand. Like, look at the complete holistic buy-in that these other teams have beyond the contract thing, right? You're playing for each other. You want to be here. We're showing our commitment to you. We're building, we're bringing players in. We're doing all these different things, even if it's really hard for us to see the forest through the trees up front with some of these deals sometimes, bringing players in, Komarov, Martin, things like that. It's over time we do understand it better. So I think they're having that conversation. I think they are on the same page. Most of the players for the Islanders, like I said, they're mid to top tier players are making between $5 and $7 million. No one's making some crazy amount that unless it was a pre-Lou contract or something like that. I think Barzal will make more than that. He'll be the outlier. But everybody else, I think, is making within. Even Peugeot is making 5.
No, he's making 5.
And then Lee's making 7.
Lee's making 7.
Peugeot and the middle and the top 6 forwards are all making 5 or above. And I think that's okay.
I think that's perfect. It's interesting too, because when you look at a team like the Lightning, all of their top guys are making 9.5. Nobody's making double digits, which is, I guess, still good. But that's the precedent that some of these teams are trying to set. Now, Tampa Bay is a little more on the higher end, opposed to the Bruins, who, Marchand's making. Is he even making $7 million? Is he in the $6 million range? Patrice Bergeron, same thing. And like we said, Pastrnak, these guys are making, I guess you could say mid-tier money, or maybe a little higher than mid-tier money, where, on the open market, they could make, maybe double digits. So,
I mean, look at Toronto. They have so much money tied up in 4 guys, and
I think
no matter what, they cannot put it together anywhere else. They had their best, 6 defensemen this year in a long time. They still couldn't figure it out. That's a real problem. I mean, I understand you pay your captain, you pay a Matt Barzal, you pay your centers down the middle. Everyone else is pretty reasonable. I think Bailey's a little rich. That might be a legacy contract, but that's sure. It's not my favorite thing in the world that exists. Everyone else is okay. Like I'm not. I mean, I think Ross Johnson's an overpayment. Obviously, $1 million for no games played. I hate that. I don't understand the logic there. But everyone else, especially after you've moved Lad, you can bury some other stuff. Boychuk's not there.
I almost wonder if that Ross Johnson contract was agreed on with the thought that we know we're going to move on from Matt Martin, and then he has that incredible run he did in the postseason in the bubble, and you're like, yeah, we got to pay Martin. We got to keep him.
Oh, that line just performed, and that's been a reason. I mean, they knew that as long as they can play, which is why I think Clutterbuck, this is his last season at 3.5. That'll likely go down in the future. If he goes on another a 2-year deal, Cizikas will probably outplay both of them just by virtue of the age and his ability. Martin's put on some hard miles.
And his likely 6-year contract that we'll talk about.
And that as well. Wallstrom's still 2 years out from a contract. With Leddy gone and Boychuk gone, no one makes more than $7 million on this team.
Right.
And again, save for Barzell in 2 seasons from now. And he's still an RFA.
Yeah. So, and now it begs the question, let's circle back to what it means for Pulock. But I think we have to also include what does it mean for the rest of the team, meaning the RFAs and UFAs that are presumably signed. What does it mean for Beauvillier, Sorokin, Cizikas, Palmieri, and Parise that Pelech signed a 5.75 by 8 contract? And I think it only means that there's a message being sent and there was a conversation had in that locker room, within that organization, amongst the players and amongst the managers and Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz. If you guys want to win, we're in an era where the cap is flat. We can't be handing out 8x8s, 8x9s. Like, Matt Barzell might get that. Understand that when he's, if he goes off this season and he has a, for argument's sake, 90-point season, that might happen, in when his negotiations go down. We paid our captain. He's the captain. He gets his payday. Everybody else, you all have a job to do, and this is how much your job is worth.
I don't think it's just the cap situation so much as if you want to be able to have a team that can even bring on players where you can have something go down at the trade deadline. If you want
that too,
to allow us to have flexibility in other off seasons or even this off season, this is a big one for the Islanders with all the RFAs and things like that, knowing what's on the horizon for the team. You have your rookie goaltender, that could be sticking around for some time. We also need to talk a little bit about that as far as Sorokin and Shesterkin is concerned and what that means, Carter Hart's contract and things like that. I think if they want the flexibility and knowing, look, the last 2 seasons, Lamoriello has made moves at the deadline to make this team better. Lee's injury aside, he may have done something either way, knowing what the team needed an injection or whatever the case is. He made a move in the year before, and that third line was a black hole, and we've said that a million times. But yeah, I think it had I think it has just as much to do with we will always try to make this team better, and we can't do that if pointing to Toronto or pointing to Tampa Bay or some other teams where you have no flexibility.
Yeah.
And there's no way to add up even a player, even some insurance.
Right.
They saw during that run last summer, not this past summer, the year before, the first conference final run, when players start to get run down a little bit. Even this year with Pajot, not being able to rest him and not having that insurance up the middle.
Tough.
I don't know how you fix that necessarily, but you wonder what happens if he's a little bit more healthy.
Yeah.
Going down the stretch there. So if you want to have and that was with a Zajac in the lineup, and the thing is he was in there over a wall strip. It was very complicated. There was a lot of moving parts there. Could they have done it? They could have. I think if you were going to lose 3 games to the Lightning anyway and push them to Game 7, you just rest Pajot. You were going to lose. You were going to lose games anyway. I'm not a future for Hall of Fame coach named Barry Trotz. So, whatever that means to you. If you're going to lose those games anyway, rest Pajot. But we don't need to kind of rehash a series that's we're getting closer to the next season than and further away from the last.
I mean, but listen, like back to Pulock though. I think with the cap going up, most likely it's not guaranteed, but it's most likely to go up another $1 million next year, so it'll be $82.5 million. Pulock will maybe make 6.25, like you said. I think that's a good guess. He might get it over 8 years. Maybe he'll get it over 7 years, to match the time frame with Pellick on the first pairing defenseman.
Yeah, 7 or 8 years. I think he gets the term.
And I think the rumor floating around for Cizikas is 6 by 2.5. I think that's accurate. I think the term makes up for the dollar amount. They're making their money. It's just gonna take a little bit longer for them to actually acquire it, but they're gonna get it.
Yeah,
I don't know if you see the same thing for Beauvillier and Sorokin. I think Parise comes in on a 1-year deal. Palmieri, I heard his contract's going to be long term, so you could see him. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 4 or 5 years at 3.5. That wouldn't surprise me at this point.
Yeah, I could see it as high as like 4.25, 4.5 or something.
Yes,
but yeah,
definitely.
I 3.5 to 4.5 is reasonable.
It.
Yeah, and that's and you hope and Palmier's been he knows Lou. They've had that conversation, whatever that dollar amount is, and it's written down, hidden in some drawer in not the Coliseum, wherever his office is now.
It's in Bridgeport.
It's in Bridgeport, or it's in Northwell Health, or wherever Lamoriello.
Garth Snow's basement.
Lamoriello probably just bought LaFontaine's house somewhere, and right? Didn't he like sell a house? He had like $1 million estate or something. Whatever. Wherever Lou does his work, that contract is there, signed with the dollar amount on it. I'd say that conversation went pretty well. Palmieri knows him. Again, that same conversation. We want to make sure we brought you in, and we had the flexibility to do that. We want to make sure that if we need to add again, we have the flexibility and we can make that happen. And that only works if everyone kind of does their part. And it sucks because he did play a major role in the Islanders getting out of the second round. You do want to see these guys get paid. Their careers are not that long. Anything can derail it. I say that for Cizikas too. He put in an absolute shit ton for this franchise. So you do just want to see him get paid, as soon as possible. But 2.5, that's fine. That'll probably do for him.
Yeah. So with all that being said, what do we think the Sorokin deal looks like, right? Because we saw what Igor Shesterkin got signed for. He got 4 years, 5.6 something,
which was like pretty unprecedented for a rookie goaltender. If I'm not mistaken.
We saw Carter Hart signed for a $4 million average annual value.
3.9.
I think it was like right under 4 million, so 3.9 maybe. To me, these situations aren't the same. The comparisons that everyone has been tweeting about, they don't really draw to me. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think just the Lamoriello factor keeps that number down.
Agreed.
I don't know on term. I have to be honest. I get the feeling they're obviously not ready to give Sorokin the kind of the full-time job. Varlamov still has 2 more years left. Yeah. So maybe you see that go up after Varlamov's gone. So it might be, his cash go up in year 3, 4, 5, or 3 and 4.
Could be
just because Varlamov might not be there, or his contract's lower, and maybe they flip in those years as far as cash in their pockets.
Right.
A 4-year 4x3. Is that crazy? I also am not having. I don't have like the armchair GM thing open right in front of me to like make sure all these numbers that we're saying work. But they're all like there's like sliding scales for this within some kind of degree. I don't really know. What did you think? What do you think for a contract for him?
I wonder if it's maybe just another year. Prove it in this year in a full season. Could be two. Could be two. I think max 2. I think it's gonna be 2 years.
So I would say 2 years. That's a good bet because then they can just reevaluate the entire goalie situation, which is scary. But let us get there. Let's kick that football and not worry about it. We don't. This isn't. I think we're a little burned by the Tavares thing and other situations, and I don't think we need to do that with the way that the team is right now.
No, and I think that let's reevaluate this in 2 years, the goalie situation, but I think they can reevaluate that with confidence. I think they know what Sorokin's going to be. He just has to be it. And I think that's where the numbers will come into play later. But for now, 20 games in the NHL, granted he won a playoff series in his first playoff series in relief for the starter, which is not easy to do, but he did it against Sidney Crosby, no less. But I see him coming in at 2 years, $2.5-3 million. I don't see it. I don't know if it could be any more than that. How do you pay a guy with 20 NHL games and a playoff run under his belt? Yeah, not even a full playoff run. He had 4 games in the playoffs. He won them, but he had 4. I think he had a couple more than 4. But you get the point. He won the series against Pittsburgh, which is great. This is why you're going to get your 2-year deal at $2.5 million.
2 by 2.5 sounds good.
I think that's it.
I mean, didn't he make 2 this year? Am I making that up?
He might have made 2 this year. Yeah, it might have been 2 this year, but so maybe it's 3. 2 by 3. It's a raise.
2 years by $3 million.
Yeah,
I'll stick at 2 and 2.5. It could be 3, but I'll stay 2.5. Final answer.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be more than Carter Hart. It's not going to be more than Igor Shesterkin. They're also not the same situation. Carter Hart has 2 seasons under his belt, as does Shesterkin. Maybe a season and a half.
And if maybe only a half season more, I'm not sure exactly, because I think Shesterkin came in midway through 1920 and then played this year, so there's just not that many games. Yeah, I could be wrong. Something like that.
Yeah. So again, the situations aren't completely comparable, and I'm sticking with 2 by 2.5, 3 max, and then, like you said, they'll reevaluate in 2 years when they have to see, what are we going to do with Varlamov, and moving forward, Sorokin will be most likely the starting goaltender. As the Islanders' options continue to dwindle to replace Nick Leddy, the Isles Twitterverse has turned to Zdeno Chara. Is there a reunion happening on Long Island with Zdeno Chara, John?
I don't know. If Green was gone, maybe. I cannot see a 39 and a how old's Chara?
44.
44. I do not see a 39 and a 44-year-old being mainstays on the Islanders roster all season. That to me is the only thing that holds me back. I don't see Chara in a second pairing role. That might be actually the first reason. The second one is that they're old. That he's just old. And Green is also there, who is being sheltered. Now he's played tough minutes, in the playoffs, and he was the fifth defenseman, and Dobson was not. So thinking about that third pairing getting a lot of sheltering, and then throwing another player in there who was getting sheltered minutes in Washington, yikes! Like I don't know that I see that. It just doesn't add up to me. You can't have 50% of your defensemen need special treatment. This is not going to work. And even not to say anything of Mayfield getting some flack this season for parts of the year.
No, I agree with you.
So
definitely agree with
you can't have 4 out of 6. You can't have 66.6% of your defensemen. You're like, yeah, I'd rather not have them out there. That doesn't add up to me.
I'm gonna say it only happens if all else fails. Listen, we're not sitting here with one answer in Adam Pellick for weeks now because nothing's going on. Something's going on. All right, we'll get answers. I don't know when's training camp, but something's up. And if all else fails, then maybe Zdeno Chara comes in. That being said, if he does come in, I don't know where they're at with Andy Green as far as how healthy are you? What's your status?
I guess he's not re-signed either then, or was that
Green signed? He signed.
Right.
It's not official per the team, but we know the terms and everything. He's 1 year,
right.
$750K. If they think he can give us another 82 games, maybe Chara is the one who rotates in. Or if they think Chara can give us 82 games, because let's face it, he just did it for Washington.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that he can't play.
Not 82 though, 56. But
I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm saying that he can't do it on a second pair. You have to remember
correct. That. Now, I wonder if if all else fails, a plan for move Dobson up with Mayfield. Someone's got to play on their offside. Make it work. I think Mayfield's is he a right defenseman with playing with a right shot, so he might be able to slide over to the left. I wonder if one of
those they keep a lefty and a righty together. I don't think they screw any of that.
It probably.
Even if it's so Chara
again,
Mayfield
this is an all else fails situation, right? You might maybe see one of the kids get the Dobson treatment, right? Maybe Salor Bolduc impresses enough to, I don't know, warrant a few games. This is a all else fails.
They also need to be able to afford it. And if we're gonna have this Tarasenko thing lingering over us, even with some forward moving out, as we discussed before, at some salary level that is unbeknownst to us, I think it worries me at this point that we're not hearing news, only because, as I've said, if there was news, we'd hear it. But there's obviously nothing that's going on. Like, nothing is official. The trade a trade didn't happen. So
no, but I think that there's irons in the fire, and right now maybe it's just a game of chicken. Who's going to move first? Who's going to be the first to budge? And we know that Lou's not going to budge, so he's just waiting out the other GMs.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about Tarasenko. I maintain. I believe the forward group is what we're seeing.
I agree with you.
For somebody moving out if they have to.
I
think they're trying to figure out how to bring in a defenseman. I think that's the priority. If there's a handshake deal in place for a Tarasenko and they know what they need to do, I believe we'll hear the trade for the defenseman first, then followed by Tarasenko, because they need to know exactly what the money is and everything needs to be solidified.
No, I agree with you. And again,
so I think that's ultimately holding. I don't think the Tarasenko thing is holding everything up. I think there's something else happening.
This is pure speculation, but what if this is what's happening? There is a deal going on for Tarasenko, but Lou is being persistent on the fact that he needs a defenseman. You want Pavillier? Give me a defenseman. There are defensemen that could be in play. Justin Falk. I don't know that they would pony up Colton Parayko. I doubt it.
Carolina's interesting.
He's their number one defenseman. Carolina is interesting.
The Kraken too.
I'm talking strictly St. Louis. If there's a real deal going on here with St. Louis, he might be trying to acquire Tarasenko and the defenseman. And maybe
it's possible that it's with the same team. It's possible it's with two different teams, which complicates it.
Yeah.
But
you could see a three team trade go on here. But I think, like I said earlier, I think there's a stalemate going on. I think he's just waiting out the other GMs. I know, and you know, and everybody else knows that Lou likes to say, if you have time, you use it. And he's using it. So, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Make no mistake, you can't doubt Lou Lamoriello right now. He just signed Adam Pelech for 8 by 5.75, and he always comes through whenever everyone is at their peak in doubting him. He got JG Peugeot. He got Palmieri and Zajac when we needed him. He's got irons in the fire. He's also known for taking his time and doing it on his own terms. So he's going to.
Yeah, there's still a long time before training camp.
Sure.
We can only say that for so much time.
Sure.
Right. We do this once a week, so it's pretty when we come back and we're like, okay, still nothing. It feels like a really long time has passed. And it's like, oh, it's another week,
Yeah.
In middle of September, they're gonna be back. So like, all right, next week we're a month away. So something like, and we even said this last show, right? When did those Garth Snow trades happen with Leddy and Boychuk? Like
days before. Or
like
the day before?
It was like the end of training camp.
I think it was maybe
right
it was
before
in the middle of it. It could have been in the middle of it.
It was, training camp was either happening or almost over.
Yeah.
And they had come in. They did not have a lot of time before the first game of the season at that point.
Yeah.
I don't believe they played a preseason game.
I couldn't tell you.
I couldn't tell you.
It was a long time ago.
That's definitely a Lighthouse Hockey research project. they for sure have something on that.
Yeah.
God, they were always so good at that stuff. Anyway, so these things can happen until the last minute. The more that I think also there's really not a lot of other news going on with any of the players that are even rumored, even by stupid bloggers or whoever, like us. We're speculating, bloggers are doing it, Staples doing it. Like none of the players are signed yet that even remotely rumored to be close to the Islanders. I don't think Vince Dunn signed.
No, he is. 2 by 4. With Seattle. Happen? A couple days ago.
Should have put that in.
2 by 4 with Seattle.
Okay, that sucks. Well, either way. So some of the players are, but they're still. Fuck. That sucks.
You okay?
No, that sucks. I didn't want to hear that. I thought that was a really good option.
It was
a way to, and that's a cheap contract for a team, or good player, cheap contract for a team that has a lot of cap space. I'm mad because they got a good deal.
I think he's going to be their Shea Theodore. Theodore went from Anaheim to Vegas. He got barely any playing time because they had their big dogs in Anaheim. And the second he got some open ice to eat the minutes, flourished. I think that's going to be Vince Dunn in Seattle.
Yeah. Well, all right. So there aren't that many players left out there as far as certainly not RFAs or UFAs, but in the trade market, everything's pretty much at a stalemate. There's not a whole lot going on out there, which is more of my point. So we'll see. Things could start to, Seattle might be waiting for the waiver period around training camp. Players kind of going back and forth, try to sneak players through. Seattle can scoop them up. I don't think that's what Lou's doing, but when teams really start to figure out they could be 10% over when the cap crunch really starts to kind of heat up for GMs, maybe he pressures some other GMs to kind of make those moves closer to the season, the start of the season. Who knows? Anyone's guess.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's talk about, because we haven't yet, the 13-game road trip that the Islanders are going to start the season on as the UBS Arena finishes its construction. Do you take that as a positive or a negative for this group? I mean, that's the most games to start on the road in NHL history, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a lot, and it's up there.
Yeah.
I want to take the positive route here. Even if they wind up not doing well on it, at least a big road trip like that is out of the way. You have plenty of time to make things up or whatever the case is. If it goes well, the team builds off the momentum of their last two runs. They can string some wins together early in the season. So if it's going to happen at any time, this is a good time for them to have a big long road trip.
Mm-hmm.
If a new player is coming on board, there's a lot, they can't do a whole lot else. A lot of them are going to be together, especially with the way that COVID numbers are going. They're probably not doing a whole lot outside of, things in the hotel or whatever, which, mental health and things like that. You have to take that into consideration. But as we saw last year with like the ping pong tournament, or I guess in the bubble in Toronto with the ping pong tournament and all that kind of stuff, this team comes together and they have fun and they all know each other. They kind of bring in people with open arms. So maybe a road trip's what they need, especially if somebody new comes in. At the worst, at least it's out of the way.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. If we're talking Jack Capuano's Islanders, I feel like this is the worst. We're gonna start 0-13. We're gonna start 1-12, and that trend's just gonna continue for 82 games. But this is not that group. This is a much different group. This is a special group, and that you hear interviews and you listen to players talk about the team and what the locker room is doing and talking about, and you just hear how much they play for each other. I don't think it matters where they're playing. I think on the road, 13 games. I think that's going to give them that us against the world mentality again. 13 games. Nobody's going to expect us to win out that 13 game road trip. But I think that there's no reason why we can't win. It doesn't matter where we are. So I think it's a positive, especially for this group. And, like you said, that long road trips out of the way, and, all the games on the back end, or most of the games on the back end, are going to be played at home. So I think that's a really good thing for them moving forward after that 13 game road trip is up.
Absolutely. No, we'll see. It'll make UBS really exciting when it does finally open. And the Islanders do play their first game there, depending on what the numbers are looking like and everything else. And
yeah,
it could be packed. It could be half. Well, remains to be seen. But yes, at least it'll be out of the way. I think that's like even if they go 7-6 or 6-7, which I just don't really see over that kind of span. At least it's done. They get pace. They're at around 500. They'll figure it out from there.
Yeah,
we've seen them start slow and pick it up. I don't think Trotz's first season was particularly great at the onset, and they kind of picked it up as time went on. We've seen it with other teams in general. They don't need to start right out of the gate. It always helps. The Islanders put a lot in the bank 2 years ago, and it definitely helped them down the stretch when they were losing. When they got Pajot and they were losing a bunch in a row. But yeah, I think I agree. I think it'll be fine.
It's going to be interesting when the opening ceremonies at UBS Arena go down to open the season, because it's going to be like mid-November, and everybody else would have been done for a month with that. But yeah, it is what it is. You want a new arena. You want every game to be played at home in that arena. This is what it takes. So the Islanders start the games or the season with 13 games on the road, and don't worry, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah.
John Cooper was named head coach for Team Canada at the 2022 Beijing Olympics. If the NHL does participate, it's still up in the air. But he'll be assisted by Bruce Cassidy, Pete DeBoer, and New York Islanders head coach Barry Trotz. Trotz has represented Canada 4 times and as an assistant coach with Canada's national men's team at the IIHF World Championship, winning gold in 2003, silver in 2009, and won the 2016 World Cup of Hockey as an assistant coach with Team Canada. So congrats to Coach Trotz. A lot of people had said to me after the news broke that he shouldn't be anybody's assistant, but I think it's pretty obvious why John Cooper is the head coach now.
I mean, between the two of them, it's they coach by committee. There's the GM of Hockey Canada, or same thing with USA Hockey or whatever. They all have their, Trotz will likely be in charge of the defense. And whatever the case is. So I think that's fine. I think when Hockey Canada is putting their thing together, they say like we need a coach that that's really, really good. That's coach teams with success. I mean, to put those types of coaches around them, what better than those two coaches together? Whether one was the head coach and one the assistant coach, vice versa, it doesn't really matter. Trotz will likely have charge of the defense, and he'll do a great job. And Canada's already a force to begin with. Pelech was on some rosters, which is exciting to see.
Yep.
Multiple Islanders on some of them anyway. Barzal was not on all the rosters, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I know it's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot of centers will play wing and things like that, just because there's a plethora of really good players. You need to find spots for them. So to an extent, I understand it, but I don't know if you saw some of the TSN.
I did.
I was confused by like Yanni Gord made it over Barzal, and some of them I was like, okay, that's very weird. I understand if it was that he just wasn't a center, it wasn't on there at all. What did you think about that?
For me, and you've said this to me before too. This is a league where it's very, what have you done for me lately? And under the Barry Trotz era of the New York Islanders, he's not lighting the lamp like he could in another system. So it doesn't look like he's a offensive monster. Make no mistake, he is. He's a monster on the offense. And you look back to when he made the All-Star team and played on a line with who did he play with? Sidney Crosby and who else? I forget.
I can't even remember.
Whoever he was matched up with, it was another All-Star. Scored 4 goals. In one of the many games that were played that day. Put up a bunch of points in total in all the games that were played that day. And guys like Sidney Crosby and whoever was on the other side of him were like, kid's a gamer. Oh, I think he played with Chris Letang. I think it was 3-on-3s. So
yeah, that adds up.
It was Crosby and Letang, and they were both like, kid's a gamer. I can't believe how skilled he is. He's incredible on the ice, incredible with the puck. I think a lot of the analysts are sleeping on how good Barzal might be,
which is crazy because of how long they've seen him be able to play. And this year was, what have you done for me lately? How many highlight reel goals has he had since the 2020 playoff bubble run into this past run?
Right. And I think it's incredible. Just, you look at Drew Doughty's on the roster again. And,
I can't understand that.
He's good still, but he's not
over Pellick. How on earth do you do that?
Right. He's good still, but he's not what he used to be. He's a shell of his former self. It's really I don't know. It's hard to break out of the typical names, I guess. And Pellick being on there really shocked me. Not that I didn't think he didn't deserve it, but because of that stigma. If you're not named Erik Karlsson, I don't know if you're going to make Team Canada just because your name isn't Erik Karlsson.
Yeah, but if it depends on. I don't think Trotz had anything to do with. This is obviously TSN speculating as well. I don't think it's anything solidified. There are some names you could pretty much put in pen. Others are maybe more in pencil. But if Trotz has anything to say about it, even John Cooper, who's played against him now twice in 2 really long, hard played series, if they have any say in this kind of thing, I'd imagine they both say that maybe Barzal gets on there, or he gets a couple extra points just because he is very close to those guys. Thinking about Barzal with like between Horvat and Marner, like that's gonna be a killer line. Right. I don't know, Yanni Gord, Bo Horvat, and Mitch Marner. Come on, that to me is an obvious and that's your 4th line.
Right,
that would be a 4th line.
Great line.
That's
Matt
even
Barzal
if it was,
blows all those players out of the water.
I think with Marner, that would be tough.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Forget about the rest of the lineup, which just kind of unreal top to bottom. But they have like a new players line. The legacy line of Marchand, Crosby, and Bergeron. It's just like they're the old guys, and that's still really scary. McDavid and McKinnon together. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Put Barzal on that line. The speed. Oh my.
Well, Huberdeau is kind of like that's who's being.
Who's the third?
Huberdeau, Jonathan Huberdeau, who's not slow, right? No. So he's not as fast as other guys, but he'll be all right there.
Yeah.
So I think I really do think Barzal ultimately gets on there. I hope he doesn't get snubbed.
I don't think he will. He'll show up for and listen, a lot of things still need to happen. The NHL still needs to agree to go to Beijing, but if they do, and they get to the tryout period and everything, I think he'll show that he belongs and he'll make it onto that roster. So, but we'll see. Time will tell. Like I said, the NHL still needs to agree to have the NHL at the Beijing Olympics. So, The Bridgeport Islanders looking to stay in Connecticut. The team is looking for the city to put in $30 million worth of upgrades. What are your thoughts, John? Things seem to be headed in the right direction.
That's what I'm reading. Our buddy Christian Arnold from New York Hockey Now had an article. I believe the Connecticut Post also had an article. That might have been what Christian was adding on to there in that conversation. I don't love cities doing that, like taxpayer dollars supporting arenas. I don't love that, even if the Islanders may or may not have benefited from that at UBS to its varying degree. I don't love that. I think in Calgary they turned it down. Granted, that's an NHL franchise. I don't love that, especially for like an AHL team. For a city to do that, that's a kind of a big investment, even if they raise the rent on the Bridgeport Islanders, which reportedly would go from like $250,000 a year to $350,000 a year, which seems rich for an NHL franchise to begin with. So, and they're not these big money makers, so I understand why they're sitting there going, we cannot afford these. If we're gonna rent this from you, we need upgrades.
Right.
So I understand how I get the logic there. I just don't love it from a taxpayer perspective, but that's a different conversation. It's good that it's moving in the right direction. It kind of solidifies that. You kind of want to see them continue to be stabilized. So I like to see it. I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, and the conversation then turns to a lot of people want the Bridgeport Islanders to move into the Coliseum. And forget for a second that that's a conversation going on in Connecticut. Is it a realistic opportunity on Long Island?
No.
I agree.
How do you have two professional hockey teams playing within 10 minutes of each other, 15 minutes of each other on Long Island?
There are already 3 New York hockey teams, 4 with New Jersey. Right?
In the NHL. Forget about Binghamton, Syracuse, Utica, Rochester.
Yes.
For a second, Albany. There's a million teams. And that's not even, I don't know. Are there East Coast League teams in New York? I can't remember.
Probably. I honestly don't know, but it's not unlikely, right? Having the Bridgeport Islanders move to Long Island, it just wouldn't work because who's going to, let's say they're playing on the same night. Who's it? Yeah, I'm going to the Bridgeport game. No.
Yeah, and AHL teams play on the weekend. NHL is a mix, but yeah, there could be there, even if they played afternoon games, which kind of might be sick going to a Bridgeport game and then going to like going
package
to
deals. All right, we're convincing
what would be the
long
the I don't know what do you call them? They're not the New York Islanders at that point. They're
just the Long Islanders.
The Long Islanders. That's great. They definitely don't. If something wasn't getting close to done, the team does not invest all that money into the redesign of the team and the rename of the thing. Like the writing's kind of on the wall that that is not a possibility. In addition to, I don't think that's financially responsible. Despite the upgrades at the Coliseum and all that kind of stuff, maybe on that side of things, there's just not enough Islander fans. There's not enough of like franchise fans there to make that work.
And I agree with you. Financially, it makes sense. It's worth plugging in these smaller teams into smaller markets like Bridgeport and promoting hockey in that area. It only leads to more money in other places. So
Connecticut doesn't have a team. Obviously, I mean they haven't had a team, an NHL team, since the late '90s. It just doesn't. It's close enough, to Long Island for them to get the players there back and forth, quickly. East Coast kind of has that advantage, particularly in New York with a lot of these teams. Although Syracuse is with Tampa, so that's kind of far. But everyone else is generally pretty close. Rochester, Buffalo, Hartford, and the Rangers. Again, that's pretty much the same thing as the Islanders. Devils and Binghamton, I think. Again, are they Binghamton Devils?
Yeah,
they were. Yeah,
they were the Albany Devils. They're now the Binghamton.
Yeah, but it was the Binghamton. They were Ottawa's team for a hot second. Things kind of moved around. That in Utica is Vancouver. I think there was talks about that. So there's a couple that are a little weird. But yeah, I think it works for them. Been working for a long time. I know we already talked about the logo change, which sure.
Yeah.
But
it bothers me less and less every day.
It's not for me.
Mainly because I don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't think about it. It's just not for me. I don't need to worry about it. I'm not a huge I'm a Bridgeport fan just by association with the Islanders.
Correct.
That's about as far as it needs to go. I don't need to think. Yeah, I don't need to think about it anymore. This is the team logo. They think it'll sell. That's on their marketing team.
Yeah, it's on them.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So sorry to crush anybody's dreams out there who might have had the slight hope that it would happen, but
it keeps coming up.
I'm pretty sure
coming up.
Well, it only kept coming up because the fans were talking about it. I don't think anybody behind the scenes was realistically talking about it.
That's probably true.
So I don't think that that's a possibility. I don't think it's actually going to happen. Sorry, Rob, if you're listening, it's probably not going to happen. Let's talk about the positive publicity that some former Islanders have, shared some stories about their experience playing on Long Island. Since the Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz era has arrived, Robin Lehner with the Andy Strickland podcast and Jordan Eberle with the DFO rundown with Frank Saravalli and Jason Gregor. Both went on the podcasts separately and were asked about their experiences on Long Island, and nothing but glowing reviews, right, John? I know you had saw some things as well. Just basically talking about how the culture was so great. They felt well respected. They were treated real well. After you move on from a team, you don't have to do that. And, they said nothing but positive things about the Islanders, which can only benefit them in the future because, coming from former players like those guys, especially, someone like Robin Lehner, who was in for a year, thought he might stick and still moved on. Lehner has a place in his heart for Long Island forever. And those glowing reviews for Long Island can only benefit them with, other free agents in the future, no?
Absolutely. I mean, and Pellick was out there. Brock Nelson also had an interview this week, and he did it. Leonard, who's not on the team anymore, does it. There was obviously, I think there was a little bit of a story about the contract, so it's worth going to listen to that podcast. What podcast is Strickland?
Andy Strickland, yeah.
Yeah, so it's worth going to listen to that interview. It got late. Conversations happened, and it didn't work out. From what I understand, it was close. Just reading through some of the tweets and the quotes and things. Yeah, of course it's good. You want to hear that. For such a long time, there was so many reasons why players didn't want to come to the Islanders. Leonard was there at a time of transition, and there was a new arena. It was getting closer at that time. I don't know how I can't remember how solidified it was in 1819, but it's obviously really great to hear that there's less and less to worry about as far as the Islanders are concerned. The owners are there, the coaching's there, the foundation of the team is there, the arena's there. They have some cap space. This is a team that's good. Even a few years ago, it was trending in the right direction despite some of the other kind of negativity around it. They had to grow out of, and we're already pretty much out of it.
Yep.
Save for something egregious that we don't see coming in the next year or two, who knows? But yeah, it's obviously great to hear. And Leonard puts up with a lot, and he's very responsive. He's very vocal, not only about his own journey, which I think is better to say than I don't want to kind of undermine what he's going through and stigmatize it and make it negative. His journey and going through some like personal growth and all of that stuff, I think is really important. He catches a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He's not always my favorite person. And he's kind of done an about face on a couple things, which is great. It shows that he is going on that journey and is growing and is constantly taking in information and kind of reevaluating things. And that's always great to see with anybody. Forget about professional hockey player. But he catches a lot of shit on Twitter, and I don't totally get it. Players sign the contracts that are given to them, and they make it sound like he had some role to play in Fleury wanting to leave, which seems like it went back a little bit. It's above his pay grade, frankly, in Vegas. I do find it funny that Leonard was on Chicago, was traded to Vegas, and then Fleury wound up on Chicago.
Yep.
I almost wondered, are there regrets between those Chicago has a lot of regrets, I'm sure, at the moment. And I hope they're sobbing daily over the last little while. But I wonder, like, does Fleury just stay in Vegas and Leonard is the goalie for Chicago and everyone kind of calls it a day? Or did Vegas really want a long-term solution? They didn't trust Fleury 2 years ago, and that's why they brought in Leonard to begin with. It's a whole discussion probably for not the Islanders section of this podcast, but yeah, I wonder about, does anybody have any regrets there?
I don't know.
Just keeping their goalies or not, but
I think it's all situational too. The time where Leonard went to Vegas, they needed a goaltender, and Chicago wasn't winning, so they got assets for him, and
that's true.
Things are different now. Flat cap now, and Vegas was looking to move on from Fleury because he's a little bit older, and they need to shed some salary and acquire a number one center. So, having all that capital tied up in the net was probably tough for them. He was probably the obvious move. Not that they handled it well, but the timing of it was all relative, really.
Yes, agreed.
Before we get to the Islanders Q&A, let's get to Around the Rink, brought to you by our new sponsors over at Manscaped.
Oh boy, are we excited. Support for Around the Rink is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below the waist grooming champions of the world. I think I was most excited about the champions of the world part. I want to be associated with champions of the world. That's what we do here at
Absolutely.
HP. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who have trusted Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off with promo code NHB20 and free worldwide shipping at manscaped.com. Jay and I both have this product now. I was thinking about getting it kind of before then. But yeah. It's a nice looking, sleek, well-designed, optimized trimmer. Makes shaving time favorite time if you're watching the show, although I'm a little dark lately, but in general, I trim my beard within an inch of its life. It's always well maintained. And I'm thrilled with it so far. James and I are some of the first people to have this, which is cool. I'm glad they kind of offered that. And I love it. I think Jay loves it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've trimmed my beard. I've trimmed I'm watching 30 Rock. So I want to say, everything in my bathing suit region. We've all, and I think it's waterproof, so you can wash it. You don't have to feel gross about it. You can do it in the shower. Whatever the case is, I think that's it's versatile. It's great. We've all nicked our face or worse. I think we've all been in that situation. It's not the most fun thing. It makes the rest of your day or longer not great.
Not great.
Not great. This trimmer puts an end to all of it. Truly a no worry trimmer from head to toe. We also, and Jay, and so we talked about this earlier this week, the boxers.
Oh my God.
Right. This is completely not in this ad read at all.
No.
Holy crap. I think I love them. I think that's my favorite thing right now. I love this trimmer. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
It holds the battery charge. I've used it a few times at this point. Gotten it wet, kind of ran it through its paces.
Yeah.
Those boxers, dude,
I couldn't believe it. I was wearing them, and the flexibility and the comfortability and they were just so comfortable.
What was I doing? And what was I wearing before this?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't even. What was I wearing before this? I don't know what I was doing either. But I'm prepared to make it my only pair of boxers for, and I'm gonna have to order more because I only have the one, so I'm not gonna wear them every day.
Yeah,
but
right.
I have to get more.
I was so disappointed going back to my other ones.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I was like, this is not the same.
Right.
I hate this. I need to order more.
The anti-sweat, the anti-chafe is just you don't even notice you're wearing them. They're that comfortable, but at the same time, you know that you're wearing them, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Right? Does that make sense?
Do you remember that trend where we wore pajama pants under jeans?
Yeah.
Or basketball shorts under jeans, and it was like really comfortable for some reason, even though it was like bulky and weird. It kind of felt like you're just wearing very comfortable pajamas under your clothing all day. It was just so comfortable.
Yeah, and the t-shirt too, right? I threw the t-shirt on the other day, and I was like, wow, this is like I have a bunch of t-shirts, but like this one is just better for some reason. Like I'm comfortable in it, and it feels good, and it looks good. Like it even looked good. So I'm loving it so far. Everything's been great.
Yeah, the fit of everything, and it's been great. So Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and incredibly comfort grooming experience. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. I now feel confident shaving the boys, and like I said, everywhere. It's been great for the beard as well. Did I mention wireless charging? I think I said that before. The wireless charging system uses electromagnetic induction, which can help battery length last longer. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but wireless charging is cool. There's a thing that is happening, and I'm glad that this has it.
Love it.
It's kind of sleek, and it's it's good. I
easily storable. Love it.
Yeah, so get 20% off and free shipping with code NHP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code NHP20. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. I'm sorry that was long, but I loved our little in the middle there because it was the truth.
Absolutely, it was the truth.
And they even told us to hold off on it.
Yeah, they did.
Use the stuff. Don't just do the thing. Have a good story. So they know what they're doing, obviously, in all aspects of their operation because I think we told the truth.
Yeah, no, 100%. This is a look. We do an ad read because we have to do an ad read, right? We have an agreed upon partnership, but this is genuine. We loved this stuff. Like I was surprised at how well received it was by both John and I at the end of the day after we got it. And I texted, I got my stuff. I'll try it out tomorrow. And like the second I tried it out, I was like, oh my God, I gotta tell John how great this stuff is. I feel so blessed to have this stuff. Like it's genuine. Yeah. This stuff is great. You're definitely going to want to add it to your arsenal to look your best and feel your best because the product is just fantastic.
Yeah. I've used some other products before. It's not as good. And I only tell people about things that I like.
Yeah.
I typically don't do negative reviews, and I won't unless someone asks me about something specific. I've only done it with like one other product where I was like, this is great stuff. Use it. This is definitely one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely one of those things. All right, let's talk about the NHL to the Olympics. And NHL Deputy Commissioner Bill Daly confirmed today that the final 2022 Winter Olympic participation decision will arrive by the end of this month. At least 2 teams have mentioned this deadline to season ticket holders regarding a switch to revised 21-22 schedule. So we'll see what happens. We'll know by the end of this month.
It's a little. There's apparently there's like some teams haven't made the switch. Some teams kind of have. They have these alternative schedules. Greg Wyshynski with ESPN, the NHL's new partner. If you live under a rock, their new media, one of their 2 new media partners for the next season and for the next little while. He had a great article on that. So I definitely look into some of the details, but they're kind of letting, I think some teams have a better idea of what it's going to look like. Teams like UBS Arena, it's already getting pushed back. They're going to have a lot of home games. So that could screw with a lot of the Islanders' schedule kind of around that time, one way or another. And a lot of other teams kind of have that issue too. So some teams are kind of freaking out a little bit, according to the article, and other teams are able to handle it just depending on arena availability and things like that, which scheduling is hard. If you've ever been a manager and just trying to like manage 5 other people's schedules to get them on, it is not easy. I can only imagine 32 arenas and 40 games in each of them, 41 games in each of them. That's got to be tough. And then managing it against NBA schedules or whatever else is going on there, concerts and whatnot. It's definitely complicated. So check out Greg's article for that.
Let's talk Tampa Bay. The 21-22 season is upon us. They're looking a little different, more of the same, but there's in my opinion, key piece missing to that team. Does Tampa three-peat? What do you think?
I put this in the notes because I saw Pat Maroon some quote about how they can do it again. It's not out of the realm of possibility. I think they can. They have some cap gymnastics to go through this season. They're above quite a bit right now, I believe, even with LTIR. They have some things, and they keep signing players. I know you could be 10% off, 10% over in the off season. I have ad reads on the brain. 10% over in the off season, but I don't know about that necessarily. So I know the Brent Seabrook thing comes in, and they'll be able to move some things around and all of that. So, but I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work. Either way, even with some players out, not coming back or traded or whatever, they're still like the Kucherovs, the points, even everyone up and down the lineup is there. They still have Vasilevsky, they still have a Hedman. Ryan McDonough's still there. Ryan McDonough's there for a long time. Jeez, I did not realize that, and he's 32. Sergachev's still really good, and he's super young. This team has a lot of mixed ages, and they've gotten a lot of really good experience. Some of them have been there through some of the hardships and losing in the second round or the third round and not making it all the way. Some have lost in a Stanley Cup final with them. If any team's poised to do it, I think they're in better shape as far as keeping the players together than Pittsburgh was after winning 2 in a row. They played well consistently. They weren't the top team last year. They didn't have Kucherov until the playoffs, and then you saw what they could do with him. So if he's around all season this year, who's to say that they can't kind of take the division? And although typically division winners do not make it very far in the playoffs, either way, I see them playing really well, and in the playoffs with that much experience and a mix of young guys and some vets, I don't know. I could see it. I don't want to. I'd love for the Islanders, for this to be like an Edmonton Islanders series, like in the 80s, where the Islanders can kind of reverse fortune and make the Stanley Cup. I'd love for them to meet in the conference final.
Would be nice.
And have the Islanders knock them off. They did that. Islanders did that to Pittsburgh in '93, and then lost to the Canadiens in the next round. But they, I love the call. Like, there will be a new Stanley Cup champion. So it'd be great to have that attached to the Islanders for more recent memory. Head to Stanley Cup in year 1 of UBS. Oh boy, those tickets would be expensive. but having said all that, yes, Tampa has the ability to do it if any team does.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm never going to bet against them.
That's probably the right answer.
But
that's what I should have said in short.
But listen, they lost a key part to their team and identity. They lost their whole third line, man. Barclay Goodrow, Yanni Gourde, and Blake Coleman are all gone.
I do say the bottom 6 wins championships. So
that's tough.
That is tough.
You look at the Islanders, and they have their fourth line with Martin, Cizikas, and Clutterbuck, the identity line, and you could, in a way, say that the Gord, Coleman, Gaudreau line was what it was for them. And man, I tell you, that's a tough loss. That's a real tough loss to lose all three of those guys. And I'm not saying that they can't replace them. I don't think it's going to be easy. I know they have that kid Colton who just signed. I think they have the one of the Joseph brothers is on the team as well. I just don't know if they have that same grit and tenacity that those three players who are now with new teams have. And I don't know. That's tough to replicate. And like you said, the defense, of course, sticking together. That's the same. Vasilevsky's the best goaltender in the NHL, and their top six is probably the best in the NHL as well. But that those three players, they had a purpose on this team, and without them, I think they're not going to have as easy of a time doing it. They definitely still could, but I think it's going to be a little bit harder for them to do without that line.
They did add Corey Perry.
That's true. They did add Corey freaking Perry,
who's now been he's pulling a Marian Hossa here.
Oh yeah, if you can't beat him, join him.
If you can't beat him, join him. 2 years in a row, two different teams. Screw it, I'm going. I'm going to the winners here,
and that's got to be gut wrenching for Montreal fans.
Yeah, it's whatever's going on in Montreal. Their team is on the up and up. I mean, they did make the Stanley Cup final. I'm not sure what the rest of their decisions. They think some players headed out and kind of a little bit of a mix up, but they're still, they still have like the Nick Suzuki's and all those types.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think they got a little bit older in their bottom six, which I don't know if that necessarily helps them. I think a lot of them are over 30. But we'll see. They're, as they say here, Tampacuse or the Syracuse Crunch, they really do have a good crop, and they tend to find ways to find these guys. So I think we'll be surprised. There might, they keep finding these young guys that are out of, Yanni Gord was nobody not too long ago. So I don't know who they drafted or anything else over the last little while, or who's been really successful with the Crunch, because I wasn't able to go and watch them last season, but and they played the same three teams over and over, so I'm not really sure, or two or three teams over and over. So I'm not really sure what to take into consideration there, but they seem to find a way. They're a very well-run organization, top to bottom. Yzerman set them up really well. Brisebois continues to kind of run it in a positive direction, obviously winning 2 cups. So yeah, I think they'll be okay. Well, it remains to be seen. Your point is well taken, though, that their third line will be severely diminished.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to the Islanders Q&A. And loyal listener Joshua Hill says, "What would you think the power play looks like next year, or what do the lines look like?" Let's start with the power play, just because I have some thoughts on that, and we've said it before, and I'll say it again. I think the forward group is going to be returning as is, plus Lee. So I think you got to get Wahlstrom on that top unit, plant Lee right in front, have Barzal feed the puck from behind the net. I think Dobson gets the nod to quarterback that power play.
You think so?
I think he does. I think he gets the opportunity at first.
They really need a lefty on that. They need a lefty to feed,
and I think Josh Bailey will be on that unit.
They need a lefty on the point. To me, again, not a. They need 2 more lefties on that. They need somebody to. They need to be able to feed Wahlstrom, and they need to be able to feed the other side. And the Barzal on that right side annoys me. I get it. It's just his off wing, and he's gonna. If he misses the net, it's a free clear.
Yeah,
and I hate that. I understand Wahlstrom with his release on the left side for sure. I understand Lee in front. I guess Pulock up top is still, you can still make those passes. It's not that big of a deal. I'd probably have Pulock up top, Wahlstrom on the left, Lee in front. How many players is that?
That's 4.
That's 4. Barzell somewhere. Bumper. He just
imagine putting your best player somewhere.
Yeah, best somewhere. But like on the right side, I just don't see it like do justice. He did score. We've talked about this before. He scored some nice goals from like that hash mark area, the top of up to the top of the circle, on that offside. That's not a bad, and that leaves Palmieri and Beauvillier and Pajot, Bailey, and Dobson for that other unit. I think that's and I kind of like that mix of lefties and righties a little bit more than on the first unit. But that's how I would see some of that.
As for the forward groups, standard Lee Barzell, question mark. I'm gonna go Wahlstrom. I think he should be there. I think they need to let him fly. Then it'll be your usual Beauvillier, Nelson, Bailey, Parise, JG Pajot, and Palmieri, fourth line. Don't ask me about the defensive core because I have no idea.
Well, and so I say it's that second line is a little bit of a question mark for me in the forward group because, again, if Tarasenko comes in or if they're getting a defenseman, I wonder how you do that unless it's like Bellows and
this is if there is no
Bellows and
a
second for that second pair defenseman, right?
Yeah.
Unless that's how you do it and you don't move anyone from the forward group, which that works for me. That's fine. What's one more player that is drafted in the past that won't make it to the NHL, or at least on the Islanders roster full time? So you may as well trade him and get a good defenseman. I don't know who the hell that is, but fine. So yeah, I would agree with that. If no one, I think that's the group, one way or another, save for Bailey or Beauvillier. And we've talked about that. We've both written about it. Staples written about it. Other people have written about it. It's a question mark. It really depends on who the Islanders are trying to aim for as far as that. If they're bringing in Tarasenko, or if that's not even an option, they're bringing in a defenseman.
Yeah.
But I'll safely go with what you said because that's fine. That works for me. I'm not worried about it.
John Filippelli asks, I know a lot of people think the Islanders are better now than they were last year because you're adding Lee back, but you don't think the loss of Leddy and Eberle outweighs Lee being added? I think that question remains to be seen. I think Lee outweighs Eberle. I think Lee coming back and having Palmieri there, Parise on the third line, I think the forward group looks much better. I genuinely believe that. You have to see what they do to replace Nick Leddy. I can't make a judgment on that yet, just because I have no idea what that's going to look like. Nobody does right now. So until we get answers on the blue line, I don't know if you can totally answer the question. But Lee outweighs Eberle with the addition of Palmieri and Parise in the lineup. That forward group is now pretty full. It really just depends on how they fill Nick Leddy.
I'll run it down like this. Lee is taking over Komarov's spot on that first line. It's an obvious upgrade. I like Palmieri to start the season on the first line. Let's call that a wash with Eberle. I don't think
100% agree.
I don't think that's necessarily true, but let's be conservative. I think that's
you
fair.
Could say Palmieri's better than Eberle.
That's what I'm saying, but we don't have to. Let's call it a wash. Parise over Komarov on the third line. I think that's an obvious upgrade too. I think the penalty kill might be a little bit of an issue, but we'll get there when we get there. We're just talking about the forward group, scoring goals, doing all that. So I think that's an upgrade. Wahlstrom in full time over Zajac. That's an obvious upgrade. Now Zajak's got a little good experience. He also kills penalties. He also takes faceoffs. But I don't know. I guess in the short term, offensive, power play stuff, pure offensive talent. He's young. He's hungry. He's cheap. I say Wahlstrom's an upgrade over Zajac, and I think he's capable of scoring 20 goals. Easy on that third line with Parise and Pajot, if not more. I think you have a higher ceiling for him. I think if he is producing, he and Palmieri switch, and at least within the first 20 games of the season, that happens just to try it. depending on if the Islanders are up, down, sideways, whatever. Maybe they give that a shot. I think that's an upgrade. Now, again, is that second line intact? Who else could kind of go in that role? Forget that for a second. Knowing what we know at this time is most of the forward group, I'd say that's upgrade. Now, the back end, like I said, looking at the entire roster, I have no idea. No idea. We don't know what's going to come out of training camp with the young guy from Bridgeport. We don't know about any kind of trades. We don't know how much faith the team is going to put in Noah Dobson, whether by design or by accident. So we'll see. But I think that forward group, and I wish I saved it. Somebody had done like how many goals they scored over the last season and said like, is this not an upgrade?
Yes.
Like this looks pretty obvious. But just the breakdown that I said, I find it to be pretty obvious that way. Just breaking it down player by player, who is in and who's out.
Yeah.
Thinking about Komarov and Zajac and Eberle, and then Lee, Palmieri, and Parise, throwing in Wahlstrom as an extra, which really should be Parise, but Komarov kind of played in two different spots. That left wing position was kind of open to whomever, depending on who was up and down in the lineup.
Yeah.
I think that's an upgrade.
And further to your point, too, the 13th forward on this team is likely going to be Travis Zajac. And I think even that's an upgrade to, Komarov coming in as the 13th forward or Michael Del Cole coming as the 13th forward. So,
right. Del Cole was so he was somebody else. So if you have Wahlstrom in now for Zajac on that as the righty on that line and Parise in for Del Cole on the left wing, yeah, that's a pretty clean sweep there and a good upgrade. I wonder if Komarov is cheaper, I wonder if they keep him around. I think that's what's holding him up is you bring in Zajac to kind of be that 13th or 14th forward and Ross Johnson is wherever he is. And although there was talk about Michael Del Cole, like in a Staple article about him. So who
it's believed.
It could be a two-way deal.
Yep. That's the belief.
Which fine. If you can bury it, it's fine. Trotz trusts them, and they've done a really good job at finding a way to make these players work, even if it's not our favorite thing in the world. I'm sure we were all really happy after Wahlstrom went down that Zajac existed last year, and it wasn't Del Cole and Komarov, and that'd been terrible. But yes, in short, yes, I believe it's an upgrade. We'll see on D.
Dave G asks, why are there no Islander logos being placed on the outside of UBS Arena at Belmont? And the simplest answer I can think of is what arena does have logos of their team outside of the arena, aside from, some posters or billboards or some screens that have big advertisements on it. There is no, at least from what I can think of, arena that has the logo, welded onto the arena itself.
No, it's typically whatever the sponsor of the arena is.
Correct.
If there's a big kind of blinky light sign like Nassau Coliseum, I don't believe the other logo was it on outside of the Coliseum. They had the posters. I
know there's a big poster up that has the Long Island Nets and the New York Islanders logo on it. Home of the New York Islanders, Long Island Nets. That's at most what they have on the outside of the Coliseum.
Yeah, so we might see that eventually. I maybe go back to some of the renderings. Maybe it's there. It might not be there yet. There's no reason to have it there yet.
But
that's a finishing touch. If it is going to be there, it's a finishing touch.
Right. Make no mistake. It's not going to be, welded onto the arena itself, but it'll be well represented in, around, and on the arena itself. Again, posters, screens, and stuff like that will be everywhere. It'll be well represented. And I don't know. I get the sense that maybe this is like a question and worry of like Is there a chance they won't be there at some point? I don't think so. The lease is like a 40, 50-year agreement. So they're good for some time. And, that's just the way that the arena is advertised. They do it, with the advertisements on billboards and stuff. So wouldn't worry too much about it. It will be well represented around the arena. So Robert Sheevan asks, could the Islanders make a play for one of the Tkachuk brothers? Both appear to be disgruntled, and it seems one of them could be a perfect fit and a fan favorite. Man, I don't
believe it.
I don't disagree that it would be a perfect fit. They're both top line, at least 20 goal scorers. They could potentially have more under their belt. Both of their ages fit in real well with what the Islanders are looking like right now. It would cost a ton. Like, you're talking Beauvillier and Dobson plus. So I don't know if there's a fit trade-wise. They would fit,
expensive.
They would fit in the lineup. But it would be tough to manage, man. Especially with the fact that they're both rumored to want to end up in St. Louis together, Alou, their father, Keith. So they never say never. I'm of the opinion that Lou wants to make a splash this summer. Is that the splash? I don't know, but I don't think it's very likely. It could happen.
Are there not also rumors out of Calgary, and I can't remember which one's there? Is that Brady?
No, that's Matthew.
That's Matthew. So isn't there's rumors that he's not liked in the locker room?
I think there might be some character question marks around him. I don't know if there's anything confirmed, but I think there are question marks.
So if there was anything even remotely close to that, Islanders are probably staying pretty far away from that. If I'm thinking about Lamoriello and how he puts his team together, and then obviously with Trotz as well. So that would surprise me. Ottawa is going to get better, and I don't know why they would part with somebody like that outside of just not wanting to pay them, which is what a lot of crappy organizations are doing. It's what the Islanders used to do. That's why Ziggy Palffy left. They just didn't want to pay him. The owners didn't want to pay him. I don't know. It would be expensive. I don't know that it would at least Brady out of Ottawa. I wonder where that's an upgrade somewhere. If it's not Tarasenko, I don't know that you bring in Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk or Matthew Tkachuk.
Right.
Like I don't know how that necessarily makes, because you're letting go of somebody and you're not just adding. You bring in Tarasenko and you let go of Bailey. You got to say that that's an upgrade. Especially because Tarasenko's only for 2 years. And if it doesn't work out, it's if he's really that hurt, he goes on LTIR. And if it doesn't work out and he can play, it's 2 years, it's whatever. You'll make it work next to Barzal. They've done worse. I don't see Tkachuk would be too expensive, and it would mean John's question earlier about upgrading the roster. I feel like that negates it. You wind up then it's not even a wash for what you have to let go to make it work. The others don't really have the assets.
Yeah.
Again, a second pair of defensemen is very different than one of the Tkachuk brothers.
Very true. It's again, never say never, but it would be real tough to get the Islanders to be able to fork anything over it to be able to afford one of the Tkachuk brothers. Fit on the team, sure. Fit for a trade via the assets, it's not likely. It'll be real tough. And I'll be remiss, John, if I don't answer the final question from Oleg Kvasha, former New York Islander. Come on, not really, but a parody account had asked the question: yes or no? Should this be the next Disney Plus series? And it's a picture of a Marvel Comics, Star Wars, Crimson Empire. Yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to answer this question. Yes, hell yes, it should be. Anything and everything Star Wars should be on Disney Plus. They're going crazy with it. To the freaking moon. every Star Wars series, all Star Wars series. Sign me up. Hell yeah. You like that, John? You don't like that.
I mean, I don't have an opinion on anything new Star Wars after 9.
Yeah.
So I don't. I was very satisfied with 1, 2, 3, 4. Like watched all the hard number ones.
I'll tell you what. The Mandalorian's fantastic.
I've heard. My
you
girlfriend
would genuinely
loves
enjoy it.
Here's my thing. I have no more appetite for it. I'm sure I would if I just like
it
watched
doesn't
it.
It feels Star Wars, but also like if you didn't watch any of the movies, you would also enjoy it.
Like I said, I just don't have the appetite for it. It kind of ran its course for me as far as I saw the storyline. It ended. The original Jedis are gone. Spoiler. Then and that was it. I was like, I ended 9.
Well,
I felt good. I was like, okay, great. It's over.
This is in the middle though. It's not after 9.
Yeah, but I didn't watch whatever it was. Star Wars, The Lion King 3.5, whatever the fucking middle ones were. I only watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
You didn't.
I didn't watch any of those Mickey Mouse bullshit ones.
That's fine. You can still watch Mandalorian. It's possible.
But I don't want to watch any of the middle ones. Just give me the movies, the real movies, and do the thing, and that's fine. The real movies, like I'm some Star Wars nerd. Just like I didn't need the extra. It didn't add anything for me. I wasn't that invested to begin with. So I'm not old enough to remember when 4, 5, and 6 came out, but I'm old enough to remember when 1, 2, and 3 came out. So I'm like, okay, well now I have these pieces. Just give me the end, and I felt good about it. I watched it and I was like, conclusion. To me, that was enough. I got my fill of Star Wars. It's over. I don't need the frill. Whatever these other movies. What was even in between 3 and 4? Were there 2 movies?
Rogue One.
That's what it was. Rogue One. Star Wars 3.5. Rogue One. Whatever.
The Han Solo movie.
Sure.
Shut up.
I don't know what any of these things are.
You're a nerd. Says the Star Wars fan.
You're in a gamer chair with a lightsaber over your right shoulder. I'm definitely.
Yeah, I am.
I'm a very different kind of nerd. If you're watching this on YouTube, I have like antique maps over my shoulder. We're very different.
I'm sitting here with my Star Wars helmet surrounding me next to my Islander flag. Don't hate me because you ain't me.
Yeah, I have a vintage typewriter and antique.
Ooh, I'm John. I'm so cool and adult-like.
Mid-century modern furniture.
Whatever.
Yeah, we're very different nerds.
All right, that's enough of that.
Yeah, maybe. No one needs. They checked out.
Thank you, DraftKings and Manscaped, for sponsoring this podcast that we put together on a weekly basis. Via my toy collection room. No, on a serious note, thank you to DraftKings and Manscaped. Use that THPN promo code for DraftKings and NHP20 promo code with Manscaped. Thank you also to the Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Writers, and of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Nasman Hockey, and you can find all of our work at thehockeywriters.com. And until next time, everybody, let's go Islanders.